This week's topic was a special request, and it's about duplicate stitch. Duplicate stitch, excuse me, is something that is covered in level 3 of the master's program, and it kind of can be difficult. When I was reviewing, that was what most swatches were sent back for, was the duplicate stitch. And I have this big old plain swatch. It was actually a hood from a lesson I did, and it's got a lot of stitches. Now, if you're going to do duplicate stitch, the most important thing is that you know your stitch anatomy, because I'm going to be duplicating a stitch, and if you're not sure what a stitch is, this isn't going to work out real well. But a stitch is something that looks sort of like a V, and it's open at the bottom, and it is interlocked with the stitch above at the top. And this is decorative duplicate stitch, by the way. I start by putting my needle, inserting my needle up through the bottom of the stitch I want to cover. And in my blog I will go into more detail about type of yarn and other factors. But for right now, I'm going this way. And I go under the legs of the stitches on the row above. And if you're right-handed, you're usually more comfortable going from right to left. Now, this brings up a very important point. If you're doing duplicate stitch, particularly if you're doing the swatch for the master's program, plot out where you're going to go first. Don't just start merely duplicate stitching, because if you're going in several different directions, the important thing is you do not want to cross the stitch at the bottom or twist it. Stockinette stitch is open at the bottom, and the duplicate stitch should look like a stitch on top. It should not be twisted. And as I said, that's what most of the swatches that were returned for the master's program were about, twisted stitches. Now, I've thought about where I'm going, and I'm going to go diagonally up 2 rows. I'm going to do 2 duplicate stitches. And since I'm going from right to left, when I insert my needle from the bottom, because I want the stitches to go that way, I'm going to go from right to left. And what that's going to do is it's going to guarantee that those stitches will not be twisted at the base. Now, as you do duplicate stitch, look at it and see how it's looking, because it should cover the stitch, shouldn't be pulled too tight, and it should be open at the bottom. And we'll do one more diagonal stitch. And again, I'm going that way. So I'm going to go from right to left. Now, let's say I've got to do a vertical line. I've got a kind of a hangnail or something. It's pulling this yarn. Okay, let's say that my next stitch is going to be the row above. Well, I'm going to bring my needle up under the bottom. And by the way, my personal thought is that duplicate stitch on vertical lines just doesn't look as good as on horizontal lines. Now, I can go from right to left, but I think I'm going to want to go from left to right on this one, because I just want to make really sure that it looks open at the bottom. And if I go from right to left, it's not gonna look all that open. Okay, and I stretch it, and again, vertical lines are a little harder to see, but I can see that it is open at the bottom. And then I'm going to go up here, and what I generally do when I do vertical lines is I kind of alternate. That one I did left to right, or right, yeah, left to right, and this one I'm going to do right to left. Now I'm going to do one more, and I'm going to go from left to right on this one, because I'm going to do some diagonal lines going in that direction. Just want to make sure that I am not crossing or splitting my yarn. And then, okay, I'm getting my little diagonal there. I want to go diagonally up to the next row. And because my diagonal line is going from left to right, I'm going to go from left to right. Now the point of this is that you just have got to be very careful as you work this. And the things that you're avoiding is, number one, twisted stitches. All these are open. The evaluator is that's what they're going to do, but also it's going to give it a neater appearance. It's going to look like a true duplicate if you do that. And you want to make sure that you don't split the stitch. And before you go too far, if you've got a stitch that looks a little too tight, or it doesn't cover the stitch properly, or it's a little too big, this is when you want to tinker with it. You don't want to wait until you're all done, because then it's kind of too late. And then I'm going to do this diagonal, going from left to right, which if you're right-handed is a little tougher, which is, I think, the big problem. If you're right-handed, you want to go from right to left. If you're left-handed, you want to go left to right, and you really need to alternate. So that is duplicate stitch, and check the blog for more information. Now this one looks a little big there, a little tight, but remember that's my yarn tail, and I haven't woven it in yet, so I can go in there and got lots of room to play as I do that.